I know the title of this video says types in Dart, and that's true, but specifically we're going to be looking at built-in types. If you would like to learn more about how to do your own types, take a look at the video on classes. To start off, let's take a look at numbers. If you have a simple number or a whole number or an integer, right, those are all sort of words that mean the same thing, like 1, 2, 0, minus 5. Those are going to be integers, which is denoted by the keyword int. An int tells the computer that you're going to be working with a whole number. Integer and it equals 0. Perfect. This means right now it's happy with this line of code because 0 is a valid whole number. If we were to say 0.5, it would have an issue with that because 0.5 is technically not a whole number. So what happens when you want to work with fractions? Well, we need a double. Double fraction equals 0.5. There we go. See, it's happy with this. It knows that the local variable fraction is a double, which means something that can store decimal or fractions. So those are the two types that we have, the two built-in types to work with numbers. What if we want to work with strings? Well, there is one string type. String. A string is usually wrapped in single or double quotes here, so let us put something in the string. We don't need to, but I like to put things in strings. This supports Unicode, so if you would want, you could put an emoji in here, and that would technically be supported. Although sometimes that gets a little bit complex. The other main type that we have is Booleans, which means true or false. Right? A Boolean, that's how it operates. It's either true or false. And all of those are stored as bool. Equals false. Brilliant. So it can either be false or true. True is the other Boolean type. True or false. Those are the primary types. Now, if you wish to have lists, let's talk about lists. A list is simply a collection of other things. They're usually denoted with square brackets in most languages, and Dart is no exception. So we're going to make a list. We're going to call this list list1, and we're going to have a list, and inside of it is going to be, let's say it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That is a list. It's got the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in it. Yeah, that's a perfectly valid list. Now, there are other ways that we could write lists. We can be more specific about what's inside of it. So let's say we have a list, and we know this list is going to have strings. Okay? This here is a way that you can tell Dart what is going to be inside of your list. So let's put A and B and C in that list. Dart doesn't complain because it can see, oh, I've got a list of strings. Look, string, string, string. Perfect, that works. But if we were to go and put a number in here, Dart would say, hey, excuse me, that is not a valid thing for this list because this is a list of strings. Whereas in this other list that we have not designated what type it is, we can go and put all the types that we want to in there, including strings and Booleans. And again, if we wanted to make a list of integers, list int. And our variable name we'll call list 3. And here we go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just like our list 1. However, if we were to go put false in there, well, it's going to want a semicolon. But false is not a string. Is not an integer, and therefore that is useless. Here at the bottom, bool cannot be assigned to list of type int. Another type that can have other subtypes is a map. A map is usually a correlation of a string and a value. So what you'll see this very commonly. Well, let's start off by making a map. Map1 equals, here we have the curly brackets are used to define a map. And let's do key, and we'll put here value. This is a valid map. So a map, you'll see this, it has usually key value pairs that are separated by the colon. So, and you can have more than one. Key 2, value 2. And Dart will be very happy with this. Now, if we wanted to, we could go and denote what kind of things are going to be inside of those maps. So we're going to go and we're going to start. So we've got the key and the value. We're going to declare our map. And the same is true here. So we're going to say this is a map of strings for keys and strings for value. Okay, that's an R. No. Map 2 equals, and this same thing would work, right? So if we took this, copy it down. However, on this first map, if we wanted to, we could have numbers as keys, and they could map to Booleans, and Booleans that could map to, actually I've never seen that done before, but I don't think it would complain. Strings. Yeah, there's no restriction as to what you use for your key or for your value. But now we're typed in, we can only do string and string key value pairings. A more common one that you'll see is map string dynamic. Dynamic is a type that means it could be anything. Dynamic is just a way to say we don't know what this is yet. It means that the compiler doesn't necessarily know what sort of actions are going to be available on that type. But this does let us go and do things like have nested maps and things like that. Even though you could, inside of here, say map string, and that would be valid totally as well. But saying string dynamic just lets us be a little bit less verbose inside of our declaration. But so let's change this to dynamic. And we can go and then see that when we make a key, the key has to be a string, but it doesn't matter what the value is. And of course, the line must end with a semicolon. The last data type I'd like to draw your attention to is sets. Sets are not a very common data type in my experience because they're very similar to lists, but the main difference between a set and a list is that order is ignored. So generally, if you had a list, let's say, this list 3 will work, and you had another list, let's say list, let's call it list 4, and it's going to be identical to 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and let's make another list, list int list 5, which equals 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, list 3 and list 4 would be considered equal because they have the same values in the same positions as each other, right? So in the first position is 1. In the second position in both lists, the second position in both lists is the number 2, and the third position is 3 for both lists, and so on. However, the first position in each between list 3 and list 5, or between list 4 and 5, 1 is not the same as 5. 2 is not the same as 4. Checks against all of them, and if there are any mismatches, it will be false. A set, however, doesn't technically care. So if we have a set, we'll call it set1. These are denoted with curly brackets as well, but the thing that's missing is going to be these colons. So we'll just go and make a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we'll make another set. We'll type this one strongly. So set, again, we just say int. Set2 is going to be a set 5, 4, 3, 2, and a 1. In this situation, set1 equals set2 because sets do not care about order. So even though this one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this one is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, they contain the same numbers inside. Now, if we were to have a set with strings, set3, call this one 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Set 3 would not be equal to set 1 or set 2 because strings are a different data type, so it would fail that immediately. Alrighty, that wraps up our talk on data types. But wait, actually there's one data type that we've forgotten. It's null. Null is actually its own data type, but technically you can't go and make a null variable. Null, this is null, equals null. That just doesn't work because Dart is like, what are you doing? This is crazy. Null is null. Why would you ever assign something to null? Instead, null can be added as a possible type to any of these other types. So in the case of numbers, if we don't know if there is going to be a number and it might be null, because 0 is technically a value, we can add a question mark, and that allows this to be null, and this will not fail. Whereas int this will. So the question mark says this variable can be null or an integer. So if we would add a question mark after this, it would say, okay, fraction, the variable fraction can be null with a question mark or a double. In this case, it's assigned to a double immediately. So it probably won't ever be null, but it may. All right, that concludes our introduction to built-in Dart types. I will include a link to this Dart pad in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.